Welcome to our kickoff party or whatever you want to call this for our dice control series. Was the one I see here? I see you already have a question, which is great. How do you determine your dice set? This is great. What I want to do is kind of kick off the series here and talk about today what I want to cover in the series. And hopefully we get some more visitors here to the chat. And I want to and I'm going to take a lot of notes here as we go. So I may be looking down and actually typing as we're doing this, but what I'm trying to do here is get a sense of what you all want from the series. So, for example, I've got some things in my mind that I want to talk about, but I really want to get a sense of what you, the audience, are kind of interested in learning about, hearing about, seeing me talk about. Even like if you want me to talk to people, like I can, maybe schedule some interviews here with folks that I know have strong opinions on either side of this debate. So, yeah, dice control is a real thing. I think we're going to find out together. I think so. Here's sort of what we're going to do. We're going to kick off this series. And like I said, I want to dive into a number of bits of this. And I'm going to talk here in a minute about what my current plans are with regards to dice control. As far as the series go, I've got two series planned. One is to talk about this topic kind of in general, dice control as a thing. And the second part of the series is going to be me showing you how I throw. Now I'm going to be bringing out my nice dice here, and we're going to avoid the 7, hopefully. And what I'm going to do is work through the chopper throw that I throw. I don't throw the standard 3-fingered par toss. For lots of reasons, I don't throw it, and we'll talk about those as well. And I'll show you the way that I throw. But like I said, I want to get into kind of the whys, the wherefores, the mechanics, how things work, what our goals are, and that sort of thing. So we have to acknowledge, I think, first that we're in a holy war, and this is a great slide. I think when I see this quote, you could replace religious people with Democrats, Republicans, atheists, dice controllers, or the disbelievers of dice control. That word could be replaced anywhere, because I think in all those things, right? And we're talking about religion, atheism versus faith. You're talking about politics. There's such this kind of divide that we've got, this really kind of hardcore, almost hatred for one another. I dropped a post about this topic in Reddit because I wanted to get some folks to come out here and talk with us a little bit about it. And man, it's just boom, all of a sudden the vitriol comes out, and people just think you're an asshole. And I whatever. I mean, to me, it's good. From a YouTube channel owner standpoint, it's clickbait and gets people talking about it. But honestly, it's ridiculous how pissed off people get when you talk about dice control. So I want to make sure that we hit some of the big topics here. So let's look ahead at what I've got planned. And here's some of the things I want to talk about with regards to this thing and where the series I think is going to go. I definitely want to get this. I want to talk about terminology, because there is this idea, and I think there's a venom that comes along, and there's kind of a stigma that comes along when you use the first two words, dice control and dice influence, and then the third, controlled shooting. And I think that there's nuance to that. And if you were to describe it, dice control is, I think, what people get so kind of holy war-ish or cultish about, is can you control the dice? Can you control what numbers come out? That's a question. I have a theory on the answer to that question. Can you influence the dice? Can you do something the way that you throw the dice that influences what numbers may be appearing? That's a little bit less, I think, forceful than saying dice can be controlled. The third level of that, of course, is controlled shooting, which is where I consider myself to be a controlled shooter, where I throw under control and I allow predictive randomness or sort of selective randomness to kind of govern what's going to happen. So I think there's 3 levels of it, and I think we got to make sure we call it out. I can foresee a video on each of these things for sure. Goals and outcomes for it. I think if you land in the controlled shooting aspect of this, you're probably a person that would say your goal is to avoid the 7. Okay, and everybody who does dice control, whether you're a Golden Touch follower, if you're a Howard Newman, if you're into the heavy process, whatever it is, they all measure the 7s to roll ratio or the 7 out ratio. There's always about 7 avoidance, but some guys will take that extra step of saying, no, what I'm trying to do is target numbers. I'm trying to avoid the 9. Skill and luck will tell you that. I'm trying to get in the box and be working on the inside numbers with a certain dice set. Can dice sets actually target numbers? Can you actually, does it work? I don't know. I want to cover mechanics. I want to talk about, and I think this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time, is the mechanics. I see, hey, there's some more folks showing up. Swerve, dice are out. How you all doing? Yeah. Can you actually control what's coming? And I think if you look at the mechanics of all these throws, especially the par style toss, when I say the par style toss, I'm saying the three-fingered grip and the controlled release that we do with that style of toss. The mechanics that make that work are insane. There's so many things that have to go perfect for that kind of toss to have any kind of a result that you expect. It feels like it's a near impossibility. And I think people who are on that side of the debate, I would say the anti-dice control cult, we'll call them, because they have, like anybody else, that kind of cultish mentality about them. If you're on that side of it, the facts, the physics, the visuals that you see in a slow motion dice toss, 100% back up that point. And I actually want to take a dive here, and I want to jump in. Hey, Brian, how you doing, buddy? Aloha. I want to take a dive into the slow-mo. I'm going to actually slow-mo myself, and it's going to take me a while. So this series might take us a long time to get through because I don't have 19 cameras, and it's hard to get, sync up me throwing it once and slow motion seeing the flight and the landing and follow the physics of the landing. It's going to take me a hot minute to kind of get all that filming done to make sure we can do it. But I think it's important to look at how does it actually work. And I think that there's, four major ways to throw the dice, right? You can be 100% just shake them up and wing them, where you're relying on the randomness. And some people rely on randomness and think that's actually the better way to go. There's a way to throw with rhythm, which may not involve setting the dice to a certain set, but a rhythmic way or a consistent way of throwing where you're achieving the same velocity, the same height, the same landing spot in general, and the same energy to the wall without trying for a set. That's a rhythmic throw. There's a controlled throw, like I throw, which is the chopper or the helicopter vertical spinning toss, that is more of an attempt to sort of, it really simplifies the whole thing. And if I want to kind of take a quick analogy here with you and talk about golf. If you've ever watched golf, which I think most of us have seen golf. If you've ever tried golf, you'll relate to this, right? You've got professional golfers out there that are amazing. I used to be, when I was in high school, I was actually a 2 handicap in high school. I know what it takes to be a good golfer, the amount of work you got to put in, the amount of time, the amount of things that have to go right for a golf ball to land where you want it to. And I want you to picture what you've seen on TV. You've seen professional golfers hit the ball with a 2-iron, 240 yards into the wind, landing it 15 feet behind the hole, 3 yards to the right, and have it backspin back within a foot of the hole. That's not random. That's on purpose. And all the variables, right? How fast you're swinging, how your backswing is, where your wrists are, what the wind's doing. All those factors come into play, and they can do it. I look at a dice controller. I look at Brian, who's here with us today. I've watched Ted throw in person. I've seen George throw. And the precision at which they throw belies the physics. It belies what you know to be true. Like, that can't happen. Tables are bouncy. There are alligator backings. Yet these people can put the dice into zones and achieve results that you think are humanly impossible. So I want to look into how that happens. I want to look at the slow-mo and say, how can somebody throw the dice, and in slow motion, you see them spinning on you see them spinning on the z-axis, right? They're spinning that way. How the hell is that possible, right? How does that work? Marn, hey, how you doing? Marn's here. Marn throws the dice different than Brian throws the dice, right? Marn, when I've watched her throw, it's more from behind the dice versus next to the dice, like some other people throw. How is it possible that we're seeing things that belie physics happen? How do I throw the chopper, which is a stacked dice throw, where they spin horizontally stacked on top of one another? How does that throw also cluster numbers? So it's going to take some math and some physics and some deep dives into the video to see that stuff. And that's going to take me a while to get through. Like I said, those videos will be slow and hard to film. But what I want to know from everybody here, and I'm seeing a couple of things in chat, are we going to be using off-color dice? Vip says that yes, for sure. When I practice, I've actually got 2 videos that I've already filmed, but I'm going to wait to release those on how I practice throwing. I use a lot of props when I practice, and one of the props that I use is multicolored dice. I think most people do use multicolored dice because you want to see what your dice are doing, not only in the air, but after landing, especially when you can videotape yourself and watch what happens with them, because that's where you'll discover grip problems or release problems or whatever problems. So yeah, multicolored dice, for sure, what I do. However, somebody else pointed this out, and I forget who it was now. I'll think of it as we go here. Somebody else pointed out that you don't want to use multicolored dice. I think in the beginning stages you do. In the end, though, I think it was George actually. The focus that is required to follow two dice that are the same color and know which one of those dice landed where and had what reaction after it landed, that's a skill in and of itself, to be able to have the visual acuity to see the same color dice. But in the beginning stages, absolutely multicolored dice. I'm seeing somebody say, I want results. Yeah, 100%. Like the goal of the series is to get results. And results can be achieved through work. And I guess to roll back to the other point I was going to make, which is the golf thing. When you watch professional golfers, and like I said, I was nearly a scratch golfer at one point. The amount of time, effort, and perfection that it takes to do that is off the charts. There's 150 steps to a perfect golf swing, and it comes down to the width of your feet, the direction of your toe. All those things matter. The par shot, the three-fingered grip toss, has as many things have to go right as a golf swing, as well as where it lands, how it hits the wall, and all those things. The chopper that I throw is a lot like, there's there's a newer golf system out there called Simple Golf. And the Simple Golf system is designed to take the uber complexity of a real golf swing down to where the average person can do it. It removes a lot of the twisting and a lot of the extra motion to help you hit the ball a little bit straighter. And what it does is it lets, 80% of the people be 80% as good as a pro 80% of the time. That's sort of the magic of the Simple Golf system. It makes it, you're not going to be a pro, but you're not going to be a hacker either. It gets most of us into a pretty good zone most of the time with not that much effort. To me, that's my throw. That's the chopper throw. When I do the chopper, right, I don't have the time to put in 10,000 throws, a month to get my regular par shot perfect. I just can't do it. I work 14-hour days. I'm doing the channel. There's a lot going on here. So for me, the chopper gets me into a zone where I can reliably be in the 18 to 25 roll length. And not necessarily targeting numbers, but I'm avoiding the 7 most of the time. So 80% of the time, I'm 80% as good as Brian or as Ted or as George, right? That's where I want to be, in that kind of butter zone for me. And when I'm in that zone, I can bet properly. And that's kind of the thing that I'm looking at, the way that I target it. So we'll look at that too. We'll look at both tosses really side by side and just see kind of, what the differences are. So going through some of the other questions here, the best way to determine your dice set, that's going to be a tough one. We're going to talk about the dice sets, and especially when I get into the par toss. And again, I may actually bring some folks on. Brian, I'm calling you out right now. If you want to jump on and talk with our folks about it, if maybe Ted at some point, I know I can get George from CY probably to join me at some point to talk through it with you. The dice set is a very personal thing. What dice set you choose, what dice set works for me, will not work for you. And the reason why I say that is this: when I throw the three-fingered grip and you're getting your backspin, and we'll talk more about the mechanics of it, but I tend to throw it a little harder than most people do. So I'm getting 4 or 5 rotations from a 10-foot or so throwing distance, where when I watch other guys, they're getting 2.5 rotations. So the landing is different. So the amount of energy that gets removed when my dice land versus when, say, Toothpick Ted's dice land is way different. My action to the wall is different. So a set that works for me will not work for him, because I'm getting more spin or less spin depending on how we look at it. So the sets are good to know what they are and how to get to them. And in fact, Brian at Hawaiian Crap Shooters has got probably the best video I've ever seen on dice sets. Not how to throw them, but how to get to the dice sets, where you start from the hard ways and you make a small adjustment and you can be where you want to. I say to you this: when you're practicing, throw as many throws as you can with one set and then switch to another set, log everything, and you'll start to see possibly where your numbers cluster based on what set. Some people say that the hard way set is the best way to avoid a 7. For me, when I throw the par toss, hard way set is nothing but 7s for me. When I need to throw a 7, I go hard ways and do par toss, because that's to me, it's a 7 generator the way I throw. Whatever I'm doing wrong with my right finger makes it have a 7. So that's the thing. It's everybody's so different with how they throw. I actually have a big problem with my ring finger on my right hand. For some reason, my right die always flies cockeyed. And that's why I switched to the chopper. I can consistently throw that thing with velocity and consistency. So I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah, Brian is saying exactly that. Everybody's fingers height, arm length, it's all different. So everybody's sets are different. And you got to discover what set works for you under what circumstance. It kind of bugs me when I see people say, you got to use the no 9 set, or you got to use the whatever set to achieve this result. That's not really true, because everybody throws it so differently. Even the machine that throws the dice, like the one that they built to prove that dice control is bullshit, that machine is not even consistent. So yeah. Hey, Will, how you doing? Welcome in. I see G-Dub is also here too. We're going to go really deep, G-Dub, for sure. And I wrote to you all on the in the Craps Nation forums as well, like, hey, I need some help here, because I don't plan for this to be a one video deal. I can't give you the truth or the fallacy of dice control in one session. This is probably going to be 10 sessions, probably 10 videos over time. Some of these will be videos that I produce where I actually edit them down, because I've got to combine the camera views. Some of these are going to be like today, where it's a live stream of me practicing, or a live stream of me talking through some technique things that don't require the slow-mo. So we're going to go through, I think, a bunch of different variations here. So yeah, so Whistle One, talking about the variables being a factor, but helping someone try and figure out their set has been your question. And I agree. So what we're going to do is exactly that. We're going to do different colored dice, and I will throw them. And one thing I learned from watching George, now George, if you ever watch George from CY, watch his channel. He practices morning and night every day. The guy films himself live constantly. And although his microphone isn't terribly loud, he will talk you through what he's seeing. So when the dice leave and they land, he'll analyze which die spun which way or which direction, and what he saw from how they landed, and he makes the adjustments. That's going to be the thing, Whistle, that when you're throwing your dice, you've got to kind of look at what each one of them did. And I kind of log it out, and I'll bring it back and say, well, the red die spun this way and the blue die spun over twice this way. And the next throw, if I get the same result, I know that I'm doing something consistent, and then you can kind of plan for it. So it really comes down to looking at how they land and logging it, and not just logging the number that rolled, but looking at which die did what activity when you did it. And Whistler, that only matters if you're consistent, right? If you throw your dice and one time they fly, I'm trying to do this for you here, together in the air perfectly, great. If you do that 2 times in a row and they do the same thing twice, you're onto something. If you let them go in your hand and one die goes way over here to the right and it's spinning cockeyed, what set you chose doesn't matter. Then you end up with randomness, and that's what we're talking about here. So the sets only matter if you're perfect. And I hate to say it like that, but that's true. The set only matters if your throw is consistent and you're doing it the same way every time. Same height, same speed, same landing zone, landing flat, hitting the wall in the same spot. If you're not achieving all the things, then you can never diagnose what's going on, like as far as the set goes. So a golfer, to me, that's, slicing every single time, it's not the ball's fault, right? It's the way he's approaching it. You got to fix that swing first, and then you can start making other mechanical decisions. So I think that's going to be, yeah, Brian, you're right. The table reaction is a huge factor. And one thing, that you have to think about too is the angle of approach. And I think we'll talk about this at some point too, but when you're landing your dice, they've got it, the back wall's there for randomness, right? They put the back wall in to force the dice to become random. One of the physics behind the par shot is they land flat and they hit the back wall exactly in the middle of a diamond or under a diamond, and they come straight back down again. If your dice don't land exactly perpendicular to the back wall, so they hit straight or parallel to the wall and hit straight and back down again, any angle, if they hit the back wall instead of this way, if they're just tilted at all and they hit the back wall angled, forget it, it's a random roll. And I think that's the thing that the folks who say everything is random will lean to, and it's true. Um, you got to be perfect to make it work, and I think that's the thing that a lot of folks aren't interested in becoming perfect. I did talk to Toothpick Ted a little bit in the car on the way to a casino, and he was talking, and I was so inspired by him. He was talking to me about how just passionate he is about being perfect and the hand-eye coordination required, and he loves the hours of practice that he puts into it. You got to do that, otherwise it's going to be a degree of random, and that's it. Um, Old number 7, humidity and temperature are critical variables. I've heard that before, and I want to explore that. I don't know a thing about that. I've actually heard it. How does it work? Does it make the dice, is it because they're sticking to your fingers a little bit and they're leaving at different angles or different speeds? I know there's truth to that. I just don't know how the math behind that works. So that's the kind of thing where somebody who knows more than me can join the show and help educate us a little bit. So that's a look at where we're headed. I can tell you this, we're going to definitely jump into the chopper throw because it's what I know best, and it's what has been requested a lot. A lot of my viewers have been saying, you got to show me this thing. People who I've played with are like, wow, that was pretty cool to watch. How do you do it? So look for this logo here, this throwing the chopper with the picture of the green helicopter. Every video with that logo on it will be a video about the chopper throw and how I throw it. We're going to go through the goals of it, why it is a thing, how I throw it. We'll look at the grip, release, takeoff, and landing in great detail. If we look at the other dice control topics, they'll have this logo on them. So when you see this ProCraps dice control, it's going to be a subject like this where I dive into the general topic of dice control or dice influence. When you see these logos here with the green chopper, it's going to be an instructional video on this kind of throw. I can see this series coming in 2 directions, and what you'll probably see from me in the next 2 months is less talk about strategy and betting and that kind of thing and theory of craps, and more into the mechanics of this. I think this topic, it's one that I'm pretty passionate about it. And again, I can see the point of folks who are so against it. I can see where they're coming from. And we're going to look at any kind of non-perfect throw becomes purely random. I believe that to be true. So the goal here is perfection. And that's, I think, what drives us. And, I've got to say this, the drive for perfection is the thing. And I think how do I say this right? From a purist standpoint, or from an athlete, oh my God, I said athlete. I'm an athlete. From an athlete standpoint, I coach baseball, I coach hockey, I've coached football, I played golf, and so I know what it takes to be perfect. And I can tell you this, I haven't played golf in a lot of years because I don't practice it. I kind of feel like if you're not practicing, you're not trying. If you're not trying to beat the system, if I'm not trying to spin the golf ball so it lands and checks up on a green, if I'm not trying to land my dice on the hard 4s or the hard 8 every single time, the square pair, any pair, I don't care, Brian. If I'm not trying for that every single time, I may as well go play bubble craps. That's how I look at it. Like, to me, if you're not trying to make this work where you can make money because of what you're doing and getting better at your skill, then you may as well just play bubble craps. There's no different. Bubble craps versus chucking them down the row is no difference. The better thing of bubble craps, you don't got some idiot next to you, breathing down your neck and giving you bad breath. I mean, that's the thing. So to me, try. I look at this like it's an effort to try. And if I'm not trying, what's the point of playing? So that's the reason why I do it. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people do it. We're trying to get some kind of advantage. So, number one variable is in timing a roulette ball. Totally. You know what? There's old PS or old number 7. I saw a video. You mentioned roulette. There was a scam. Who was it? Did anybody see this video? I forget where I saw it. Where some guy invented a thing that with your phone you can watch the roulette. It times the wheel and the velocity of the ball, and within 2 or 3 slots it can predict where the ball's going to land. So as the thing is spinning and the dealer clicks the ball in there, you can put your phone at the roulette wheel and actually get a bet down that's going to win. That was a scam that somebody put out not long ago, and that's why they're teaching dealers now in roulette to like flick differently and use different hands, and it's crazy. Anyway, that's an overview of my series. We're going to do, like I said, we're going to do a deep dive on the chopper because it's what I know. I'd love to have somebody join me and do a deep dive on the par toss because that's what they know. And again, exploring the mechanics of it and a lot of the theory behind it. But I also want to talk about dice control as just a topic in general and how we approach it and how we live in the world. Another thing, and so Mara, I'm glad you're here too, because one of the things that I noticed when we were in Reno was the way that we bet differently on each other. And this is a thing that I think, I don't know, man, if you don't believe in dice control, whatever. I believe that if you know somebody can throw the dice, and whether they're a par toss, a chopper person, or a rhythm thrower, if you see historical evidence of somebody doing well, wouldn't you bet differently knowing it? So one part I want to cover in this series, if you are all okay with it, is a way to approach betting and gameplay based on the shooter. So Brian will tell you got to qualify every shooter. He qualified me. He even asked permission. It was awesome. We were at the GSR and he said, "Do you mind if I qualify you?" I'm like, "Dude, I'd qualify me. You got to qualify every shooter. Make sure they aren't throwing sevens." But once you've qualified a shooter and you know that they're good and they're shooting a certain way and they're consistent about it, you would bet differently. I would bet differently on a rhythm shooter versus a dice influencer versus a controlled shooter versus a totally random person. I have different betting systems that I would employ based on what I'm seeing from the person. So I want to cover that too. I think there's probably some hay we can make on how we bet against different types of throwers for sure. And yes, I do want to get into, for sure, to answer the question from Whistle earlier on, I want to get into how this works. Like, how can you get better at throwing your way? And how can you get into your zone? There's mechanical things you can do. There's ways to practice, and there's ways to just kind of get into that rhythm. And the rhythm, to me, is where it's at. I mean, I have no dance rhythm, but I got some dice rhythm. And once you get to where you're on it, you're on it. Dice grinders, welcome. Talking about your craft right here, man. Once you find that rhythm and once you get into the zone and you're consistent, man, you can definitely influence what happens here. And I want to, like I said, dive in deeper. So keep your ideas and your suggestions coming. Of course, this video will be up forever. Leave your comments in the video comments. You can also drop me notes on any of the Facebook pages where I put this post. I also frequent, and I actually live full-time, it seems like, in Discord, which is the Color Up community. I talk there all the time, as well as in the Craps Nation Skype. So you can get to me anytime you want with an idea for a video or whatever. I'm 100% open to making this series go where we all need it to go. I've got some general ideas, right? We saw my sort of things I know I want to cover here, which is terminology, the goals, the mechanics, betting systems, and that kind of thing. But there's more stuff you want, then let me know what you want to see, and that's what we are going to do for sure. So yeah, Brian, you're saying it for me, right? Categorizing the shooter is to know how to bet. You're right. On a great shooter, you might full press. On a rhythm shooter, you might be half pressing or single unit pressing. There's a definite way that you would approach betting, specifically your pressing methods, based on the propensity of one shooter or not to hit certain points or certain numbers, and you start seeing that rhythm. So Will saying he wants to see more math and physics people dive into whether the diamonds actually introduce so much randomness as is assumed. You know what? I think you're right. I would love to find somebody who knows that stuff. What I can tell you is this. The thing that the anti-dice control community points to is a slow motion video. And you look at slow motion and the dice will smack, they will hit the diamonds, and they'll always roll what looks like on, I'm going to try it here, what looks like on the z-axis. They're not actually rolling square. They're rolling, looks like cattywampus, right? But they're not. When you're in a dice set and you've landed flat and they hit the wall, the z-axis that they're spinning on before they land is actually one that you can almost predict which z-axis it's going to be on. How are they actually doing this? Differs based on how they landed to start with. And you can control which side spin you're getting based on where you started with the set and with the initial bounce. And I've seen that. It looks random, but it's actually less random than you think it is. But we do need somebody who understands math and physics better than me to help us out with that. I definitely think that there is some, the degree of randomness is different based on, again, the velocity, angle, and where. If you can always get the 6 to land on bottom, like think about this. If you could get the 6 to land on bottom every single time, and it hits the rubber in the same general spot every single time, you're going to start seeing clusters of numbers. And that's what the dice controllers are attempting to do. Land on the same number, hit the wall in the same spot, and yes, some degree of randomness, some degree of side spin, but have it land where they expect it within a few cases to land. I'm a big believer in energy and reduced energy off the wall. So I don't know that I can ever make that happen. My toss is designed to allow you to control the amount of energy in the back wall, which I believe will control, or not control, but impact the number of ways the 7 can appear after the hit. So my chopper toss is not designed to cluster numbers. It's designed to avoid the 7, which is a different goal than a controller or an influencer has. So I think that's definitely a difference for sure. So, hey Jeff, how you doing? Glad to see you here. A little late, but we're just about to wrap up actually, and I want to make sure that we're hearing all the voices here, and yeah, let's get to it here. So, UNLV, this is old number 7, proved it possible to have influence based on outcome of the robotic test. You know, it's interesting. The robotic tests that they did, I watched those things, and I've seen a bunch of these robot tests. They're not very consistent. I saw a guy actually on YouTube. He did this thing where he kind of like put the dice on a table and kind of just like pushed it. I don't know how he pushed it with a pencil, like just kind of like did this, and said it's not random. The thing that makes a controller able to control the dice is the spin. It's the back spin on a par toss. It's the side spin on my chopper. When you throw a chopper with side spin, it's not designed to get you into a set. It's designed to stop the dice. And that's a critical piece. You can almost stop the dice, stop them cold. So yeah, I think that's about it for me to cover. I do want to watch that UNLV thing a little bit though. I want to get more into that. Yeah, so again, any other ideas, questions you've got, please feel free to drop them into chat. Oh, hold on, I've got something else going on here. What's going on?
I don't either.
Hang on a second, I got some weirdness here.
Do?
Let me do leave.
I'm sure he'll put him.
There we go. I have a Zoom call going for school in the other window, so yeah, that was kind of funny. I'm seeing another comment here from, yeah, there's a lot of people here. It's good. Chris is saying, I throw the chopper on all 7 set in hopes that when the land and bounce little, the 7s will not show. That's like the that's like people like setting their dice predictably on the, so that they get the double pitch, which totally happens. I don't know that the chopper gets me into a rhythm so much with the dice, with the numbers that can show, because although I throw it consistently, right? I throw it and then they spin about the same rate. You have to take into account the landing zone, right? You're going to land your dice anti to where the chips are. And I found myself at live tables all the time. You're always throwing on an angle between chips or different spots, and as soon as your angle changes into the wall, it changes the effect of what's going to happen from them. So yeah, the chopper, like I said, I can usually get one die to almost sit still before it hits the wall. The second die, I get it to trickle to the wall and barely touch it, which is where I can control that. So yes, I have seen the robot on Evolution Craps, and that thing puts no spin on the dice. That basically throws a knuckleball. It throws it at a different velocity because they change the spring tension on it, and it throws a knuckleball, so they don't land in the same spot. But the Evolution Craps thing is actually pretty cool. If you could only take your bets down, it would be cool. That thing treats every bet like a come bet, and you can't ever take a bet down. So that kind of takes that off the table for me. But yeah, I've watched that thing throw, but they do change the tension, and they definitely don't have any spin on it. I think the UNLV robot also did not spin the dice in a predictable way like a human would. And I think that's different. It's funny. I think machines can be perfect, but humans can adjust, and humans have feel, and humans have touch, and humans can sense the bounce of the table and make an adjustment to it. And I think achieve better results than robots can. So I trust people. I've watched a golfer like on purpose skip a ball across a lake and get a hole in one. Like on purpose skip the ball across water. Like that's possible. you can totally control the dice. I think people can do it. So, hey, Kevin, how you doing? Yeah, we're getting some late arrivals here, which is good. I'm glad to see you all here. Like I said, I'm about to wind it down here, but open to thought suggestions. What do you want to see? This is a kickoff meeting for this series. So what I want to know is, what do you want to see from me in the series? Again, there's going to be a whole series of videos on the chopper because it's what I know and what I do. There's a whole series of videos on betting with the table based on what you're seeing dice controllers do. But as far as the topic itself, I'm seeing we want some physics, we want some math, we want some slow-mo. We want to look at the UNLV study for sure. I definitely want to know some of those things and take those deep dives. So let's 100% get into some of that stuff as we go here. So, yeah. Oh, I see. Who's in Vegas? I'm not in Vegas. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Vegas for the Craps Super Bowl for Golden Arm. I can't be there most likely unless a miracle happens and I fly down for like one day and then fly right back. But I've got family commitments. I'm going to be traveling the week before, and I have family commitments that like the 25th that I cannot get out of, and I won't. So anyway, we'll see if we can get down there once to see everybody. But no, I'm not down there. I'm not speaking down there, although I'd love to speak at some point. Cool. Thanks, Badger. Yeah, I can't wait to see where this goes either. One of those, like, the dangers of running a channel like this is I don't know where it's going to go, right? A series like this can go in so many directions. I don't know where it's going to land. And that's, again, part of the reason why kicking off today is important to me, to see where you want it to go. And then we will definitely take it in the direction that it needs to go. And that's sort of where I see this. So, all right, cool. I'm going to cut it here. It was great talking to everybody over chat. I can see where we're going here. I've got some notes that I will take from the chat transcript over here. I've got some thoughts that I want to add. Now that I've said them out loud, I want to add a couple things to our plan. And yeah, you know what? The chopper could take it all at Golden Arm, Brian. I'd love to bring it out there, but like I said, I can't get there on the 25th, which is a big day for it, and I've got so much going on family wise in between. I wish I could do it. I might pop down for an afternoon or something just to win some money from you guys when you're all throwing. So that'd be the idea. Cool. Thanks everybody for jumping in. Huge turnout today. I really appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate the likes and everything else. And like I said, keep engaged. This is the time to hit the thumbs, whatever you call it, the notification bell, because as these videos come out on this topic, you're not going to want to miss them. Hopefully they'll be great. Yes, Robinson's coming in for sure. I'll be talking to him. There's a few folks that I've got targeted to bring in to talk with me. Some of these are going to be like side-by-side, like podcasty, interviewee type shows, I think. Some of them are going to be, let me film you, do your thing, and I'll talk to you about what you're doing. I think this is going to be a really cool interactive series. And like I said, I'm just gonna get out of strategy for a while and do some more of this tactical stuff. I think it's going to be a good long-running stamp on the YouTube Craps sort of experience. I think there's not enough of this kind of thing. And again, I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm not trying to promote somebody selling something. It's all about, let's learn about it and let's win together. That's the whole thing. So see y'all out there. Yeah, see ya. Thanks so much for coming out today. Have some going out music. All right. Bye all. A lot of familiar names up there. It's great. All right. See y'all next time.